Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor, and we're back with another episode of Tea with Sue. Today, it's Good Friday. So here we're celebrating the Christian religious holiday of Easter and the resurrection. And it seemed like a perfect topic for today. So I wanted to explore it a little bit with you. So when I asked for the dictionary definition of resurrect, of course, it related to bringing a dead person back to life. That was one definition, but it was also defined as adding vigor to. So just keep that in the back of your mind as I'm walking through my own process here. So certainly, probably one of the most famous people in history to have achieved resurrection is Jesus Christ. And he chose, so I've read in The Way of Mastery, he chose crucifixion as a way to transcend the fear of death. Well, it seems as if he pretty much achieved that. And when I thought about it, I couldn't help but reflect on my own near-death experience that I had in 2007 and came to this, it was coming to a place of knowing, not so much an actual experience. I've listened to lots of other people talk about their near-death experiences and what that was like. And we shared a lot of commonality, the idea of this blissful peace, this enduring love, this all-encompassing, unconditional love. All of that was very similar to my experience. The difference was I didn't, quote, see anything. I didn't see a light. I didn't see any other beings in front of me. I didn't really hear anything, but it was a wash of knowing instead. This knowing that I was loved because I was a child of the universe, that there was this all-encompassing, Sue, just because you exist, you are deeply, deeply, deeply loved. Well, this was kind of a new experience for me because I don't recall ever having felt that way in my everyday life. So in addition to that sense, there was this knowing that we are spiritual beings and we have everlasting life. That there was just no question about that. It was as if this knowing just seeped into every pore of my being in that moment. And I'm going, oh, really? So now I confess that when I came back to planet Earth and was struggling to resume my former life, I wanted to deny the knowingness. I wanted to deny what I had experienced because, first of all, it seemed so big and it was so overwhelming for me that I struggled on many levels to take all of that in. Deny it though I tried to, I couldn't though. And I realized at that time that I didn't fear death because I thought, oh, well, if I'm an eternal being, then there's nothing to fear about death because yes, eventually this body will get older and older and older and more frail and more weak and crumble and go back to the earth. That's just the life cycle of everything on the planet. Everything goes back to the earth eventually. But as they proved in I think it was Einstein's theory, nothing ever actually dies, it just transforms, it just changes. Well, so the nature of who we are in the physical body changes, and as the physical body disappears. So, but we as eternal beings, as spiritual beings, carry on. So I find that quite comforting, actually. So, but here's the thing that I struggled with at that time, because life as I had known it ceased to exist when I came back to planet Earth, when I came back into my body and faced the reality of what was in front of me. I was different. My old self had just died. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle to look at my life and say, oh, well, I'll just carry on as if nothing happened. I couldn't do it. And I think if you've ever been through a significant event of any kind, whether it's a significant emotional event or a significant physical event, whatever it is, you probably have discovered that life is not the same afterwards. There's life before and there's life after that particular event. It tends to be right between the eyes, and whether we like it or not, we're forced to look at our lives differently. We're forced to, well, I guess we're not forced to. I guess we have a choice. We can toddle along and do the best we can to reclaim what was there before. But it doesn't always work, and it doesn't work all that well because we've changed. So it's kind of catching up with, wow, I feel differently, I see differently. And sometimes there's a big adjustment period. So I know in my case, I felt lost for a couple of years where I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know so much what mattered to me, and the things that had mattered to me before didn't matter anymore. And so I was in this kind of reinvention process, but I didn't really know how to do that. It was foreign territory for me. So it actually took another significant event. It took cancer for me to begin to find my feet again, for me to, and so what was so interesting in facing cancer, even though I was terrorized by the idea of it, I wasn't afraid of dying. I thought, well, it's pretty cool on the other side. Like there are no problems left. Every problem I've ever had on planet Earth just flat out disappears, and life is amazing. So there were days when I thought, you know, it'd just be nice to just check right out, because that's life on the other side is pretty phenomenal. And that was what I had experienced. Now, knowing that the reality was, here I was facing my own challenges, and knowing that it wasn't my time to go. It was my time to decide, how was I going to live my life from here on in? What was that going to mean? And even though I went through some very dark, despondent times as I went through that process, there were things growing under the soil. You know, the darkness was nurturing new seeds of hope, new seeds of longing, new seeds of passion, new seeds of going to an entirely different place in my heart, in my mind, and in what I wanted to do with my life. And I didn't know it. And of course, as human beings, we tend to get rather impatient. You know, we want things like now, you know, hit the button and something's supposed to happen. But of course, life doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you have to put a new battery in the remote control before anything happens. So I needed new batteries. I needed to recharge. I needed to really take the time that was important for me to resurrect my life. And in the resurrection, it was about deciding, what was I going to keep and what was I going to toss out? There were lots of things that I tossed out. So one of the things that I had held on to as if it was some kind of treasure was I'd held on to grudges from childhood. And I had lots of resentments built up over time about my parents, about teachers that I felt treated me poorly, about kids that I knew, about my siblings. there, the list was long and it was seemingly endless. Well, I looked at that whole big green grocery bag of stuff I'd been hanging on to, and I'm thinking, why am I still dragging this around? What purpose is this serving? Why am I holding these grudges? And when I realized that it was affecting me physiologically, that was yet another reason to ditch the bag, to say, to let go of it, to literally give it up so that it could transform into something entirely better. So that was one of the things in resurrecting or reconstructing my new life that I spent some time doing, that I spent some time saying, okay, no, we're not holding on to that anymore. What if those people at that time and I at that time was just doing the best I could? That we didn't know what we didn't know. We did it that way just because that's all we knew how to do then. And to be able to forgive that, forget about that, and rewrite the story, say, yeah, well, I had that experience, but I can reframe it as an adult so that it doesn't niggle at me anymore. It doesn't tug me. It doesn't trigger me. So there were those kinds of things that I took a serious look at, and I thought, this no longer serves me. I'm not sure it ever served me. I suppose it did for a period of time because I hung on to it. So there was that reality, but it no longer serves me. So let's let it go. Let's just out of my life as best I can. And of course, we always get the test down the road about whether we actually let it go or not. And if we have firmly let it go or totally let it go, then there'll be another little trigger that will hit that button again, and you go, oh, I still haven't quite dealt with that totally. So what do I need to do now? And then maybe we go back into forgiveness, and maybe we rethink the reasoning behind that, and then let it go again and let it go again. There were lots of things that I let go of many, many times, and it seemed to just, come back, and it would come back, and I'd let it go, and I'd let it go, and I'd let it go. But eventually, it didn't bug me anymore. It wasn't a part of my life anymore because I had moved on from that. So I think this is a very important thing when we come to resurrection, is if we're going to add new vigor to our lives, then there will be some things that no longer have value to us, and we need to set them aside. We need to let them go. It becomes important. Then, of course, the flip side to that is, now what? What am I passionate about now? What is it that brings me joy? What brings a smile to my face? How do I want to proceed? Are there new talents I want to explore? Are there facets of my life that I thought I would never be able to do or get to because of obligations? And now I'm saying, why not? For however many minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years of my life left, am I going to deny myself the joy of learning that, or having that, or going there, or being with whoever it is that I most want to surround myself with? So it adds a whole new dimension. And as we piece that together, then we begin to have a new life, a life that has let go of what no longer serves and brings in what will bring us what we want. Now, this is I would call it, sometimes it's a daily process. Sometimes we want to resurrect our daily routine and say, well, what works for me now? Do I need 5 strong cups of coffee to get me going, or would an herbal tea serve as well? What if I meditated first thing in the morning before I put my toes on the ground, excuse me, or went to the gym, or what is it that would fill my soul? Write in my journal, read a book that inspires and uplifts me. So it can boil right down to daily routine, not just the whole big life, because we live moment to moment, right? We're not our future plans yet, because the future, there is no future really. It's right here in this moment, right here, right now. It's the present. So while we have ideas and dreams and things that we know will take time to materialize, we can only live it moment by moment. So in this moment, what is it that is your heart's desire? What is it that maybe it's something that you cherished even from out of your past that you haven't done for a long, long time because, oh, well, I can't do that anymore. I shouldn't do that. You have all these reasons or excuses for having set it aside. And yet now would be a perfect time. So one of the examples I can give you is that I started learning to paint a number of years ago, and had this amazing art teacher whose art to me was the closest thing I ever got to God. When I would look at his paintings, Bika is his artist's name, and he taught me to see so differently when it came to art, with shadows and light and color and technique and so on. And I reveled in the painting that I did. I didn't consider myself an artist. I was just slapping paint on canvas just because it was fun, and I got a lot out of it. Like, it filled something in my soul. And then at some point I got away from it, and I threw away a bunch of canvases and just let go of it and didn't do anything at all. And then recently, when I went to Mexico, I started painting with a friend there. Again, I picked up my brushes and a canvas, and I started painting. Well, now we paint weekly, long distance. So over Zoom, there's 3 of us that get together, and we do whatever inspires us to do, whimsical or whatever. Well, do I consider myself an artist? Not in the professional sense. I guess I'm an amateur artist who's learning and playing and enjoying the process. The difference is now that I realize it fills something in me that's really important to me. It's my way of experiencing peace. It's my way of feeling connected in a way that I'm not doing anything else. So I used to sew many, many years ago, and that was my way of just focusing on what was happening in that exact moment. But I don't sew anymore. I don't even have a sewing machine. But I realized that in taking up a piece of watercolor paper or a canvas of some sort and dabbling in the paint pots, then that gives me the same nurturing that I used to get from sewing. So I've resurrected that part of my life with a different tool, with a different way of going forward. And I love it. So I've been taping up all these little canvases and all over my room, and I take pictures of them, and when I'm tired of them or have new ones to add, then I just throw them into a little folder, and oh, there's my art portfolio, and it just brings me joy. So and other people that I've shown them to say, oh, Sue, we really like your art, and I'm okay, cool, that's great. I love to share it, and it's fun and whimsical, and it inspires something in me. So that's the kind of idea around the whole concept of resurrection, that just as our bodies, slough off old cells and I think bone tissue regrow, you have a new skeletal structure every 7 years or something, which I find absolutely remarkable. Well, just as our bodies are in this constant state of change and transition, so are we as spiritual beings. that we are constantly evolving and growing and adding to, even if it feels like we're static. We're not really. And of course, we can accelerate the process and bring in more of what we want when we're conscious of what's going on. So at the times that we get stuck, then bringing our own consciousness to that and examining it and becoming aware of, well, why am I stuck? What's going on here? What is it about this situation that I don't like? Or what is it that's causing me hurt or harm or whatever? And then through that process, you can begin to move forward with it, to work your way out of it, or stay stuck if that's your choice, because sometimes we do, for a very good reason, just stay exactly where we are until something else comes along to help us get unstuck. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, was this whole concept of resurrection. So think about what it is in your life that you would like to resurrect. Even if you don't believe you're a spiritual being having a human experience, what if it's all about creation? It's all about growth. It's all about you moving to more of what you want and less of what you don't want. You know, you're magnificent enough to explore this whole realm. So I want to challenge you to do that. In the meantime, enjoy your Easter break. And I know there will be lots of Easter egg hunts on Sunday coming up. And I hope we don't have snow so that it's a little cool to be out there. If you're enjoying Tea with Sue, you're welcome to subscribe to the channel. You can also access more videos on my app, the Magnificence Mentor, which is a free download. Take good care, my friends. We'll see you next week.